My parents stole my MBA fund. Justice served. I never thought I'd be sharing a story like this on Reddit, but here I am. Recently, at 28 years old, I discovered my parents had embezzled $120,000 from my MBA fund. This money was meant to help my older sister Ashley, 35F, and her fiancé Nathan, 37M, buy a house. The betrayal still feels surreal, and I'm still processing the depth of their deception. Let me walk you through this nightmare. My dad's parents, my grandparents, were incredibly wealthy and believed strongly in education. They were old-fashioned in the best way, valuing hard work, saving money, and making smart long-term investments. I didn't see them often since they lived out of state, but every conversation revolved around my future. My grandmother always said, "Education is the one thing nobody can ever take away from you." The irony of that statement now stings. My grandfather passed away 3 years ago after a short illness. Though devastating, we still had Grandma, the rock of our family. She never missed a birthday or an accomplishment, always sending thoughtful cards and care packages. We lost her last year. On the day she passed, I was rereading all her letters, unaware that she and Grandpa had built something much bigger for my future. Each letter held life lessons, and typically a small check for my education fund. When their will was read, the initial distribution seemed fair. My parents inherited their savings and home. Ashley received family heirlooms and all of Grandma's jewelry, valued in the tens of thousands. And I received a significant education fund, specifically for my MBA. The will was clear. This money was solely for my schooling, and my parents were appointed to oversee it until I needed it. At the time, I was so grateful for my grandparents' foresight. It never crossed my mind that my parents would tamper with it. The golden child and the warning signs. Looking back, I should have seen the red flags. Ashley has always been the golden child of our family, as far back as I can remember. It's hard to say without sounding resentful, but my parents clearly favored her. She was brilliant at everything, incredibly talented, hard-working, and unique. I vividly recall my high school graduation. I had just won a major science competition, earned a full college scholarship, and was valedictorian. During my speech, I glanced at my parents in the audience. They were on their phones, barely paying attention. Yet, later that night, when Ashley, who had already dropped out of college twice, announced she was thinking of becoming a teacher, they were ecstatic. "You're just amazing with kids," they gushed. My accomplishments that day? A quick, "good job." This trend continued throughout my life. I worked hard, graduated with honors, and landed a job at a prestigious company. Over the past 6 years, I've climbed the corporate ladder, earning respect from both superiors and colleagues. As a senior project manager, I oversee a team of 15 and manage multi-million-dollar accounts. To my parents, though, I was always just the sensible one, the one who succeeded effortlessly because I was naturally smart. Ashley, on the other hand, bounced between jobs before becoming a teacher. She's now a kindergarten administrator at a small private school, and Nathan is the head zookeeper at our local zoo. I have no personal issues with them. They're decent people. While seemingly happy and competent in their careers, their combined income is, at best, modest. For the past year, they've been obsessed with buying a house. Every family dinner turned into a debate about real estate costs and throwing money away on rent. They'd lament the unfair market, admiring homes far beyond their budget. Despite being in their mid-30s, my parents still viewed Ashley and Nathan as young people who need help, constantly empathizing with "you deserve a nice house," and "it's so hard for young people these days." The bomb drops about a month. Ago, I started applying to MBA programs. This wasn't a sudden decision. I'd been planning this for years, meticulously researching programs, strategically developing my career, and maintaining a flawless work record. I want to enroll in a top-tier program that will propel me into executive leadership roles at my current company. Every C-level executive there has an MBA from a reputable university, and I'm determined to do the same. One evening, I brought up the education fund. Application fees for prestigious MBA programs can run into thousands of dollars, and I needed to know exactly how much was available. Their reaction should have been my first real warning sign. "Don't worry about it," my dad mumbled, shifting uncomfortably. My mom quickly added, "Just focus on your applications for now. We'll talk when the time comes." Then they abruptly changed the subject to Ashley and Nathan's house hunt. I initially dismissed it, thinking maybe they were just disorganized with the paperwork. But something felt off. A week later, I brought it up again, more directly. I explained that I needed to know the exact funds available to budget for applying to multiple prestigious schools. That's when they dropped the bomb. "We used the MBA money for Ashley," my mother said, as casually as possible. "She's buying a home with Nathan." I stared at her, certain I'd misheard. My dad added that Ashley needed it right now and that it wouldn't be fair for you to get a free ride when Ashley had worked so hard with student loans. When I asked her to repeat herself, I lost it. I'm not proud of my outburst, but it was years of repressed frustration finally erupting. I demanded to know how they could betray me, how they could embezzle the funds my grandparents had explicitly set aside for my education. I pointed out that the will was crystal clear about how that money was to be used. What they did was illegal. My mother simply shrugged, as if I were overreacting. "You'll figure it out," she said. "It's not like you can't borrow money like everyone else." They acted as if they'd done nothing wrong, as if my future and my grandparents' wishes didn't matter. I then brought up legal action. Even without being a lawyer, it was obvious their actions were unlawful. And what did they do? They laughed. Not just chuckled, but burst out laughing. "With what money?" my father asked, staring me dead in the eye. "Even a lawyer is out of your price range." My mother added, "Don't be silly. This is a family matter." The humiliation I felt was indescribable. I stood there stunned, the realization hitting me. They had always seen me as an afterthought, someone whose future they could sacrifice to help Ashley. My financial independence, my successful career, my academic achievements, none of it mattered to them. I would forever be the underdog. I barely slept that night. I couldn't stop thinking about how my grandparents had trusted my parents to do the right thing. They were oblivious to the true nature of my home life. I never told anyone about how I was treated because it didn't seem worth it. I mean, I wasn't being mistreated, was I? They just didn't care about me as much as they did about Ashley. They weren't physically abusive. A ruthless plan and unexpected allies, I arrived at work early the next morning and asked to speak with my boss, Mr. Thompson, in private. He's been a mentor since I joined the company, more than just a boss. He's always encouraged my career goals and seen me rise from a junior role to team leader. More importantly, he has a background in corporate law and maintains connections with top law firms. I also plan to contact my dad's cousin, Uncle Jake. He's a successful businessman who always seemed to see through my parents' favoritism. Although not a constant presence in my childhood, he always showed genuine interest in my accomplishments and future aspirations. He's also the only person in my family with more influence and success than my parents. When my parents mocked me, something inside me snapped. I never wanted things to get ugly. I've always been the quiet, sensible one who never caused a fuss. They assumed I had no power, but they're about to discover that the daughter they consistently undervalued is far more formidable than they ever imagined. First update, the wheels of justice. Turn since my last post 2 weeks ago, a lot has happened. Things moved faster than I anticipated after my meeting with Mr. Thompson. He not only gave me his full support, but also connected me with a friend at Wilson & Partners, one of the best law firms in the city. He reminded me, this isn't just about money. It's about holding your parents accountable and honoring your grandparents' wishes. Meeting with the attorneys was illuminating. They confirmed that my parents' actions were clear violations of the will's terms and their fiduciary duties. What shocked me most was learning my parents could face criminal charges for their actions. And the lawyers discovered something unsettling. My parents had started transferring funds to Ashley's account months before I even brought up my MBA. However, Uncle Jake's intervention was the true game changer. Within hours of my reaching out, on LinkedIn he called me. His response exceeded all my expectations. "I always knew your parents played favorites," he said, "but stealing from their own daughter? That crosses every line. Don't worry about the legal fees, I'm handling everything." Uncle Jake wasn't just talk, he acted immediately. He assembled a team of expert estate attorneys and hired a forensic accountant to trace every penny of the embezzled money. In a matter of days, they gathered enough evidence to prove my parents had systematically drained the college fund over several months. The first confrontation happened on a Friday. My parents' attorney called, attempting to reach a family settlement in exchange for me dropping any legal action. They promised to cover some of the MBA expenses. Uncle Jake's response was brutal. "You will either be charged with a crime, or you will return the entire sum plus interest and penalties. No negotiations will take place." My parents' reaction was priceless. They started sending me non-stop emails. "How could you involve outsiders in family matters? We were going to help you eventually. You're destroying this family." Without replying, I forwarded everything to Uncle Jake's legal team. He then revealed the second part of his strategy. In addition to pursuing the money, he's advocating for a full examination of my parents' financial transactions, suggesting there may be other irregularities we're currently unaware of. Yesterday, Ashley finally spoke up. In a lengthy email to me, she claimed she was clueless about the source of the house money. "Mom and Dad said they had savings set aside for us," she wrote. "I never thought they would steal your money." She concluded by asking me to exercise common sense and come up with a family solution. I showed Uncle Jake her email. His answer was straightforward. "Send it on to the attorneys. It is proof that she was aware of the money after it had already happened, but she did not try to return it. She is therefore complicit." This morning was the most fulfilling. In a hurry, my parents' lawyer called Uncle Jake. The forensic accountant apparently found that my parents had started utilizing their power of attorney to transfer money even before my grandma passed away. This can significantly increase the charges. Right now, my parents are making a valiant effort to turn things around. Mom begged me to contact them in a heartfelt voicemail, stating they would find a way to pay back the money. Dad, in an email, acknowledged they may have made a mistake, but maintained they were just trying to help the family. Uncle Jake's advice was simple. Avoid answering anything. Give them a panic. When you were weak, they made fun of you. Now it's their turn to feel helpless. All of this has been made possible by Mr. Thompson's tremendous assistance. In addition to producing an excellent reference letter, he has already approved my leave of absence for when I begin my MBA program. He told me today, "You're displaying remarkable composure. Not many people could handle this situation with such professionalism. Unless my parents return the entire cash plus fines, the legal team is getting ready to bring official charges the following week." Uncle Jake predicts that to pay for everything, they will have to sell some assets. But in his own words, that's their problem, not yours. Until this is addressed, I will be staying with a friend. Building security has been told not to let my parents into my apartment when they attempted to arrive. To record any attempts by my parents to get in touch with me, Uncle Jake also engaged a private investigator. If required, this material might be used to demonstrate harassment. Second update, escalating consequences. 3 weeks have passed since my last report, and things have significantly worsened. At last, I am able to provide the specifics of our legal strategy development. Much more was revealed by the forensic inquiry than we had anticipated during our first court filing. The first bombshell was revealed. Uncle Jake's team found that my parents had been misusing their power of attorney over my grandmother's funds in her last months, in addition to stealing my MBA fund. Long before Grandma died, the evidence showed that they were methodically shifting funds around in order to transfer them to Ashley. During the initial hearing, their lawyer's expression was priceless. It was obvious that he was unaware of the severity of their financial misdeeds. He actually requested a break to speak with my parents after our legal team showed them the recorded chronology of transactions. Later on, I found out that he confronted my parents for not telling him certain facts, and he is now thinking of leaving their case. The previous caregiver for my grandmother made the most startling admission. Seeing our legal notification in the estate documents, she contacted Uncle Jake. It turns out that my grandmother had made it very clear that the money was only for my education by bringing up the MBA fund with my parents several times in her last months. These exchanges were also recorded in the caregiver's notes. She had been documenting every family conversation in a care diary. Ashley's participation has also changed in an intriguing way. She hired her own attorney after realizing the legal ramifications of accepting stolen funds. Because they expected her to support the family, this caused a serious gap between her and our parents. My parents were in a panic when her lawyer suggested that she should keep her distance from the matter. The state of the house has gotten especially disorganized. The acquisition is currently being investigated by the court since the down payment was made using stolen money. The problem has been communicated to Ashley and Nathan's mortgage lender, who is currently examining the loan application. A fraud investigation might be initiated if my parents falsified any of the financial records. They co-signed. Unexpectedly, Uncle Jake's crew also discovered that my parents had been informing members of my extended family that I had consented to give Ashley my MBA fund. They seemed to have been preparing their defense in case the money transfer was questioned, as they had been fabricating this story for months. Now, a number of family members have come forward with emails and messages from my parents that support this untrue story. The deposition was the most satisfying development. My father made an effort to keep his haughty demeanor until Uncle Jake's attorney produced proof of their calculated scheme. It was quite painful to watch him struggle to describe what they had done. My mother really lost it when she acknowledged that they had no intention of repaying the money they had stolen. They have been almost hilarious in their attempts to control the damage. Despite having numerous recorded conversations with my grandmother and her attorneys, they are now attempting to assert that they were perplexed by the wording of the will. 2 of their attorneys have already resigned, so this is their 3rd attorney, and they are frantically trying to reach a settlement. The final terms were outlined by our legal staff, who made it apparent that there was no opportunity for discussion. Every penny they took would have to be paid back with interest that would start to accrue the day they took the money. They would also be in charge of paying for all of our legal fees, including the forensic investigation, which had become quite expensive. We also insisted that they stop gaslighting and attempting to rewrite the facts and submit a formal written admission of their misconduct. Last but not least, they would need to sign a legally enforceable contract committing them to stop communicating with me in any way. No more utilizing family members as messengers, deceptive messages, or unexpected visits. The socioeconomic status of my parents is deteriorating. Several of their acquaintances have quietly told me how shocked they are, and word has spread throughout their neighborhood. My father's golf club is reconsidering his membership, and my mother's bridge club asked her to resign as treasurer. People don't feel comfortable hanging around with someone who would steal from their own child. It turns out Ashley's circumstances are also getting worse. Concerned about having a principal embroiled in financial malfeasance, the board of directors at her school has set a meeting to review her position. Because Nathan co-signed loan documents that may include misleading information, their place of employment is undergoing an ethics assessment. The last development is quite pleasing. Do you recall how my folks snickered when I brought up the idea of filing a lawsuit? In order to stop any more financial fraud, Uncle Jake's team recently submitted a motion to freeze their assets. Within hours, their attorney contacted them, pleading for a settlement conference. Uncle Jake is still brutal in his methods. In response to my parents' attempts to persuade him to be loyal to the family, he sent a caustic email with the entire extended family copied on it. Family loyalty? You lost any right to talk about loyalty when you stole from your daughter and laughed in her face. Get ready to face the consequences of your actions. My parents are getting really upset because I haven't spoken to them at all. They have turned to using friends and family to get in touch on their behalf, but each effort simply strengthens our allegation of harassment. Every day, their desperation becomes more apparent. Third update: justice achieved. 4 months have passed since my last update, and I can now finally reveal the story's resolution. The outcome of the last court procedures is more heartbreaking for my parents than any of us could have imagined. Allow me to explain how justice was ultimately achieved. Let me start by sharing my favorite moment, which was the last hearing. When my parents realized they had no other choice, at last their facade broke. In her closing remarks, the judge was very severe, describing their behavior as a calculated betrayal of both their daughters and their own parents' last desires. She said in particular that they showed a startling degree of moral decay in their laughter at my first legal threat. The forensic analysis showed that my parents had been preparing this heist for more than a year prior to my grandmother's passing. They had methodically made up fictitious family contracts and documented fictitious discussions regarding my voluntarily relinquishing the MBA fund. According to the court, their actions were considerably worse because of their premeditation. Though fines were hefty. In addition to returning my MBA money plus interest, they were mandated to pay punitive damages that nearly doubled the initial amount. The judge justified the severe punishment by pointing to their deliberate malice and repeated attempts to mislead the court. The fascinating part is that my parents had to sell their home. Yes, the home they inherited from my grandparents, in order to pay these charges. Nobody failed to notice the irony. They have significantly downgraded from their previous way of life to renting a modest apartment on the outskirts of town. Their decline in society has been dramatic. The membership in the country club retracted. Their seats on different community boards were lost. The social network that my mother built over the course of several decades has fallen apart. It turns out that upper-middle-class suburban society does not tolerate stealing from children and lying about it. The repercussions on the job have been just as bad. My father, who took great satisfaction in his business reputation, was compelled to retire early. When someone has been legally shown to have taken from their own child's inheritance, no one wants to do business with them. At local businesses, his former co-workers now steer clear of him. After leading local charity organizations, my mother was forced to leave her volunteer posts. The last straw was when they were asked to resign from all leadership positions at their church, of which they had been active members for 20 years. They've become social pariahs in their own community. Uncle Jake said Ashley and Nathan's relationship is arguably the most noteworthy development. Their ideal home, they went crazy when the mortgage firm learned that the down payment was made. With stolen money, they revoked their approval of the loan. They are currently dealing with their own legal problems as a result of their willful acceptance of stolen funds. Ashley's career has completely collapsed. In their formal statement, the school board cited ethical concerns and loss of community trust as reasons for their unanimous decision to remove her as principal. Since the news has gone viral in the local school community, she is now having trouble finding even entry-level teaching jobs. Nathan's situation wasn't any better. He was placed on administrative leave by the zoo while his involvement in the financial misbehavior was looked into. Even though he wasn't personally responsible for the money theft, his signature on loan documents that contained false information has created ethical questions. The strain was too much for their relationship to handle. Nathan left their apartment last week. He accused her of being like her parents, while Ashley accused him of not being more supportive during the situation. They are currently in the process of calling it quits on their engagement. Uncle Jake's plan of total social and legal ruin was more successful than anyone could have predicted. He set up a family meeting when my parents attempted to make one more plea for family loyalty, not to patch things up, but to explain what they had done in front of the whole extended family. He provided a timeline of their deceit at this discussion, detailing the false documents they produced and the lies they told different family members. Disgusted was the universal response. A number of family members who had first attempted to resolve the conflict now publicly denounced my parents. The meeting essentially put an end to any remaining family support they may have had. And the most telling moment occurred when my mother's sister, who had always been one of their closest supporters, rose up and stated, "I don't even recognize who you are anymore. In my case, I've come out stronger than before. Along with significant damages, my MBA fund has been fully refunded. In addition to receiving my money returned, I was accepted into a prestigious MBA program on a merit scholarship." In his letter of reference, Mr. Thompson praised my exceptional skill and integrity in handling this problem. My employer has been really helpful. They have granted me permission to take a leave of absence from the MBA program and have even promised me an executive post after I graduate. Your handling of this situation demonstrated that you possess the strength and judgment required for senior leadership, Mr. Thompson informed me. Uncle Jake is now regarded as a real mentor. After I finish my MBA, he is already discussing possible investment opportunities with me and has introduced me to his business network. He told me, "Your grandparents would be proud of you because you've shown that you have the backbone for business." I've relocated to an upscale apartment in a gated complex that keeps my folks at bay. The doorman is instructed not to let them in and has their photos. Their phone lines and emails have been blocked, and all efforts at communication now go directly to our legal department. The last turn of the blade. Nathan used to work at the zoo, which is just next to my parents' new apartment. They must view the location that symbolizes the start of their demise every day. According to Uncle Jake, karma can be humorous at times. Someone in their social circle wrote me an anonymous letter yesterday. It seems that my mother stays at home most of the time, only out for essentials. It has been reported that my father spends hours sitting by himself at a nearby coffee shop, gazing off into space. The social calendar they used to have is now absolutely vacant. I find myself thinking about my grandmother's statement. Education is the one thing nobody can ever take away from you. She was correct. With her foresight and Uncle Jake's assistance, I've now not only safeguarded my education fund, but also imparted a lifelong lesson to my parents. That concludes this tale. I appreciate everyone's support along this journey. I'm at peace knowing that justice has been done, even though I never wanted things to end this way. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.